Sounds to me like the revolution is spreading. You know, this is a great theme for our program today, defending the American dream. But you know, I believe the campaign that we've been running here for the last 8 months has been coined in words quite close to it. It is restoring the vanishing American dream. This is what we have to do. We have a lot of restoration to perform, because if we're going to keep our American dream, we have to look to the problems that we face today. We face very serious economic problems, financial problems, foreign policy problems, monetary problems. They're listed up and down, and yet it's easily explainable how we got ourselves into this mess. Because there has been neglect of the Constitution, and we can restore the American dream by following the Constitution. You know, our government has been growing by leaps and bounds. We have, not too long ago, elected conservatives to run our government. But what has happened? The Republicans have become a party of entitlements and expanded governments. And as long as we do that, we're going to face this huge crisis. Our national debt now is $9 trillion, but that's minor compared to the $60 trillion of obligations that we have. And this is one reason I believe when we talk about these problems that the young people flock to our campaign, because the burden has been placed on the young people. And it's also one of the reasons when we come up with solutions and offer a chance for all young people to get out of the Social Security system, that they realize there are answers to this. On taxes, there's a lot of talk about taxes. You know, they talk about a flat tax and a fair tax, and my program is not complicated at all. I want the low tax. I want to get rid of the income tax completely and totally. And when I'm asked what I'm going to replace it with, I say nothing. We don't need anything if we have a proper-sized government. We don't have a proper-sized government. We have devised a government that has endorsed the principles contrary to the Constitution, to conservative principles, and we've endorsed the concept that we are to run an empire around the world and a welfare state here at home, and it's nothing but trouble. And what we have neglected have been our personal liberties, and that is the purpose of government, to protect liberty, not to promote war and welfare. The Constitution very clearly was written for a very important purpose, to restrain the government, not to restrain the people. Today it seems that just about all legislation is written to restrain the people, control the property, tax everything. At the same time, we have more secrecy in government than ever before. It should be the other way around. We should have open government and personal privacy. That's what we should have argued for. There's been a subject that I've talked about ever since I first ran for Congress way back 30 years ago, and I still talk about it because it's in the news more so every day, and we cannot solve our problems if we don't look at this particular issue. And it has to do with the cartel controlling the banking and monetary system. As long as we permit a private secret bank to monetize debt, create money out of thin air when the politicians spend too much and they can't tax enough and can't borrow enough, then we print the money. So that is why we have to address the subject and eventually do as Jefferson and Jackson did, get rid of the national bank, the central bank of this country. My positions so often come from what we call the old right, the conservative traditional position, the constitutional position. And as you know, that part of the Republican Party has always been that of arguing against careless intervention overseas. And we as a party have benefited tremendously over the years by this position. Just think of how Eisenhower came in to clean up the mess of the Korean War, and how Nixon was elected after the mess that was created in the 60s in a no-win war. What did we do in the year 2000? We as a party ran on a program that I endorsed. no nation building, a humble foreign policy, no policing of the world. That's what the Republicans used to stand for. That's what we should stand for. We should stand for America, defend this country, and not to police an empire throughout the world. It is that notion that will bankrupt this country. We currently today can't afford to pay the war or our welfare system without borrowing nearly $3 billion a day from foreigners, a lot of it coming from China. If that's not an irony, I don't know what is. No wonder the dollar is weak on the markets, and it's going to get a lot weaker. So no matter how much spending you want on policing the world, or how much money you spend for more entitlement programs, even if they are Republican entitlement programs, it will come to an end, and the American dream will end. It will end because we won't be able to afford it. And that's how all great nations and empires end. They collapse for economic reasons. What we need to do is understand what created the American dream and where our prosperity came from. It did not come from government. Our lives and our rights do not come from government. The government's there to protect life and liberty. The extension of life and liberty is the pursuit of happiness and assuming responsibility and self-reliance, to create the incentives with a full belief and confidence that freedom works. If we are to be compassionate and we are to take care of the maximum number of people with the maximum amount of wealth, we have no other choice but to defend the free market, the sound economy. Truly free markets, not the interventionism and the planned economy that we have today, not the type of economy that is epitomized by the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA taking care of New Orleans. Just think of the tragedy there of wasting money. That's central economic planning. If we assume that, we cannot be prosperous. We have to believe that individuals are capable of taking care of themselves. But once we allow the government to get involved in saying that we are going to direct your personal life to make sure that you are a well-behaved individual and that we will improve your ethical behavior, or that we are going to make the economy more fair and redistribute wealth, believe me, it can only be done with a use of force and spending money and ultimately undermining the system that is so valuable. In the same way, we have a grand story to tell, and we have every reason in the world we should be proud of it and spread it around the world. But you cannot spread the great message of American greatness through force. You have to do it by setting good examples, by becoming prosperous, and let other people want to emulate us. Then our message can spread. This is, to me, so important. But the extension of personal liberty is that of the ownership of property. Today we have been very careless about property and contracts. We as a people, the entire nation has come to the point where personal contracts don't mean anything. There's a little bit of talk about social relationships and contracts being permissible, but economic contracts aren't permissible. We have to ask our government for everything to do. How many permits do we have to get to use our land? We don't own our land anymore. We rent it from the government, then we ask permission how to use it. We need private property rights reinstated in this country. Which means, of course, the rejection of these huge tax burdens that we have and the regulatory burdens, but also to reject the notion that they can use eminent domain and a wholesale purpose to undermine the system. This whole concept of defending liberty here at home and being less of a policeman around the world implies that we still do and should believe in national sovereignty and our national borders. I strongly believe that. I do not think for a minute that you can have open borders and reward those who break the laws and give them automatic citizenship. At the same time, the welfare system says that the mandates go on particular states that are literally bankrupting our hospitals and our schools because of this burden. But there's no reason in the world we can't believe in national sovereignty. We don't need the WTO to tell us how to regulate our vitamins and nutritional products. And we don't We don't need to reject this wonderful dream and this wonderful principle that has made America great. Believe in liberty, believe in property, believe in our Constitution, and we will have the American dream. Thank you.